Welcome back to CEEN Caribbean News. It's now time to go in depth. After leading a lengthy campaign against the government as opposition leader, head of the People's National Movement, PNM, Dr. Keith Rowley is now the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago following general elections on September 7. The hope of a better republic now rests on the shoulders of the country's new leader and his government. The first annual budget of the new administration will be presented on October 5. On this In Depth, we delve into the expectations from the business community and explore the challenges that have resulted in those expectations a week before the budget is presented by new Finance Minister Com Imbert. We have been joined by Mr. Ronald Hines, Senior Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Welcome to In Depth, Mr. Hines.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, what is the general consensus among the business community regarding the change in government?
I'm not sure that I could answer it in terms of what is the general consensus. I guess after an election where the results were statistically close at one level, then I guess one could assume there's a division in the country that may well be reflected very much in the business community as well. I think the way I would tend to look at it, I think the business community understands that it has to deal with any government that is elected by the people, and they respect it from that point of view. Having said that, I think that means that you always then start with a hope and an expectation that the government will do well, which I think would be the case right now.
Now, one political commentator believes that before expectations are made of Dr. Rowley's government, the price of oil at this time and its impact on the budget should first be considered. Do you agree with that?
Well, I agree that the price of oil is a reality that everybody in Trinidad and Tobago understands has implications for us. How the government treats with it, what choices they make, that's what's going to determine the degree of confidence that people have going forward. So I think people understand that oil prices are an important factor. The energy prices, I guess, more accurately, because gas is a very important component. But yes, energy prices is very important. How do they treat with the expected revenue shortfall? What do they do to deal with, in many cases, expenditure profiles that are predicated on high oil and energy prices that are clearly not sustainable? Those are the kinds of decisions that will determine people's confidence going forward for sure.
That being said, what are some of the expectations that the business community has of the new government?
I'll break that in a couple of parts. Let me say, first of all, that Minister of Finance, who has been installed 11th of September, around the 11th of September, reading a budget on the 5th of October, I think everybody expects that we're probably going to get this in 2 installments. And so I think what we are going to hear in October is not necessarily going to be the full story. So having said that, which brings us to the next part, whether we heard something comprehensive on the 5th of October, which I don't fully expect, or whether we hear it sometime several months later, we expect that the government is going to have to show how they propose to deal with the expected revenue shortfall. And what do we expect? I think there's a degree to which the rebels hit the road, and governments would always try to avoid taking what large sections of the population will consider to be hard or harsh measures. But I think we're obviously reaching a stage where some of that is likely to be unavoidable. We would like to see an effort to bring expenditure more in line with what we think would be reducing revenues. And really to do that, a lot of what I guess could be called better targeting of the spending is part of what's going to be required.
The falling price of oil is creating a path of uncertainty in Trinidad and Tobago, and its impacts are already being felt. However, another major issue, as highlighted in reports out of Trinidad and Tobago, is the limited amount of foreign exchange available that has affected particularly the manufacturing industry. At this time, has that situation changed any at all?
Well, it certainly hasn't changed for the better. I mean, I saw a report in the local media within the last week where one of the large conglomerates was doing an interview and they were simply talking about all of the difficulties that they've been experiencing when they go to their bankers for foreign exchange to settle foreign bills, and all of the problems that has given rise to, and that it gives rise to issues of credibility, it gives rise to issues of your suppliers not being willing to continue to supply with a continued extension of credit. So that has definitely not improved.
How can the new government then effectively address the situation and shoulder the effects of the falling price of oil on the economy?
We're running a growing budget deficit, and if one understands the way that the Trinidad and Tobago economy functions, a lot of the consumption in the economy is really driven by the conversion of the energy revenues, which comes to the government through taxation. And so the government spending is what bolsters or maintains the consumption of the economy. A lot of that spending requires foreign exchange to do it. So one of the things that I think one can reasonably expect is, as the budget deficit decreases or as government spending decreases, one is going to see a reduction in domestic consumption, which itself is going to lead to a reduction in the demand for foreign exchange, at least foreign exchange for consumption purposes. So the foreign exchange is very much connected to the government spending, is very much connected to the budget deficit. So they're all going to work hand in hand. Another aspect of the foreign exchange usage is confidence. The less confidence that people have in their ability to get foreign exchange when they need it or require it, the more likely they are to not release foreign exchange that they may have earned or that they have, because then they don't have the confidence that they may be able to get it when they need it. So even where businesses earn foreign exchange, those businesses that perhaps 5 years ago may have sold all or some of that foreign exchange into the banking system, you're going to find those businesses are less likely to do so. So one aspect of the foreign exchange shortage is obviously foreign exchange earnings, but another aspect is consumption, and a third aspect is confidence. What you want is that the actions of the government leads to at least an increase in confidence, and that's not going to happen based on statements made in a budget. That basically is the likelihood of that happening is over time as people observe what the government not only says, but what the government does.
Has the business community formulated any proposals to aid the government in coming as close as possible to fulfilling its expectations?
Yes, we have. The point that I made earlier about managing the expenditure side, and in particular managing the transfers and subsidies, some of which goes to make work programs, some of it goes to a set of social programs that are not sustainable at the current levels. Sometimes when the business community is heard to say that these things are not sustainable, the response seems to convert that into saying that the business community is saying to cut them off or to move it to zero, which is absolutely not the point, and which is why I made the point earlier of the importance of it being targeted. So those proposals have definitely been made to the government over the last several years, and including some of the last proposals that we've made to the government. So that's one of the things that we've identified. There needs to be a greater targeting, so that to the extent that there's a need, that some of those needs are fulfilled, but we're saying that a lot of the money is going to places where either there's not the same level of need, or that there are alternative ways of taking care of those financial situations.
And now, former Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissesa is pushing for a recount of the election votes. What are your thoughts on this?
Trinidad and Tobago has a history of long court processes, which actually, ironically, one of the areas of our budget recommendations was actually to fix and improve the backlog in our courts. So the Chamber and the business community at one level is on record as wanting a more efficient judicial and law enforcement system, because that feeds into crime, it feeds into all kinds of things. But sadly, one of the concerns or expectations is that this may well find its way being tied up in that same process. Just for some history, several years ago, we had elections petitions. At that time, the elections petition related to a couple of parliamentarians who had dual citizenship. And in fact, the next election came before that was resolved in the court. It was actually discontinued because it was thought with the advent of the new elections, it became a moot point. I'm not suggesting that the same thing would happen, but I think there's an expectation that that may well be one of the things that might happen. Other than that, I guess one could be concerned that it has the potential to add a degree of instability, and I think business prefers predictability.
Thank you very much for speaking with us, Mr. Hines.
Good talking to you.
We were joined by Ronald Hines, Senior Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce, speaking about the business community's expectations of the new Dr. Rowley-led government.